The smartest people in the room are often the worst learners in it. Not because they lack intelligence, but because their intelligence is the problem. Every year you accumulate knowledge and experience, but you also accumulate something far more dangerous: the unshakable feeling that you already know enough. That feeling is quietly costing you more than you realize. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly why adults are wired to resist learning, and the specific moves that fix it. Chapter 1. The Expert Trap. The more you know, the harder it is to learn. That sounds wrong, but it is one of the most well-documented patterns in learning research, and it has a name. The Japanese Zen term ikkoshin translates as beginner's mind. The more you know about a subject, the more likely you are to close your mind to further learning. As the Zen monk Shunryu Suzuki puts it, in the beginner's mind there are many possibilities, but in the expert's there are few. As adults, we become subject to preconceptions and expectations, and close-minded towards new ideas or ways of looking at the world. This can be amplified by the hubris that comes with being considered an expert in something. Think about the last time you sat in a meeting, a class, or a conversation and mentally checked out because you assumed you already knew what was coming. That assumption is the trap. And the more experienced you are, the more frequently you fall into it. The expert's mind filters incoming information through everything it already believes. The beginner's mind has no filter. It receives everything. That is why children learn languages, instruments, and physical skills faster than adults. Not because their brains are better, but because their egos are smaller. So what does this mean for you? It means the first job before learning anything new is not finding the right course or the right book. It is deliberately dismantling the assumption that you already have a head start. Here's where most people get this wrong. They think the solution is more information, more content, more input. But the problem was never a shortage of information. It was a surplus of certainty. Chapter 2. The Three-Lettered Enemy. What is the three-lettered enemy? It is the single biggest obstacle between you and becoming genuinely good at anything new. It's called ego. And as Epictetus said, it is impossible to learn that which one thinks one already knows. Ryan Holiday spent an entire book making this case. The argument is simple and devastating. Ego does not just make you arrogant. It makes you unteachable. It filters feedback as attack. It reads confusion as failure. It treats not knowing something as a threat to identify rather than an invitation to grow. And the older you get, the more identity you have wrapped up in being competent. Being seen as someone who does not know something feels genuinely dangerous, so the ego steps in and protects you from that feeling by making sure you never put yourself in a position where you might look like a beginner. The very habits and beliefs that produced your success becomes the obstacle to your next level of growth. What got you here is actively preventing you from getting to where you want to go next. The practical move is brutally simple. The next time you feel defensive about feedback or resistant to instruction, or the urge to say, "I already know this," pause. Recognize that feeling as your ego doing its job. Then ask what you might be actually missing. That pause is the entire practice. It does not require a personality transplant, just a 1-second gap between the feeling and the reaction. So now you understand the two enemies, the expert trap and the ego that feeds it. But here's where it gets interesting. Chapter 3. You are studying wrong. Most adults who decide to learn something new do exactly what they were taught in school. They read, they highlight, they review their notes, then they reread the chapter. It feels productive. It feels like learning. It is almost completely useless. Make it stick takes a sledgehammer to conventional beliefs about learning, challenging the notion that making learning easy is effective. Introducing challenges and delays in practice produces more robust learning. Struggle is part of the process. The research is unambiguous. Rereading produces the illusion of familiarity without actual retention. Highlighting creates a false sense of engagement. The feeling of fluency you get from reviewing material you have already seen is not learning, it is recognition. and recognition evaporates the moment you actually need to use the information. What actually works is retrieval practice, closing the book and trying to recall what you just said from memory. Testing yourself before you feel ready, writing down everything you know about the topic without looking at your notes. Low-intensity learning strategies involve less or easier retrieval. Pushing difficulty higher and higher, and testing yourself well before you're ready is more efficient. It feels harder, but that's the point. Difficulty during learning is not a sign that something is wrong. It is the signal that actual encoding is happening. Scott Young, who taught himself an MIT computer science degree in 12 months, found the same thing. Feedback can be painful and uncomfortable, but the fear of feedback often feels more uncomfortable than experiencing it. It is not negative feedback itself that impedes progress, but the fear of hearing criticism that causes us to shut down. The adult learning upgrade is this. Replace passive review with active retrieval. After every book, video, or conversation what you are trying to learn something new, close everything and write down what you actually remember. Then check. The gap between what you thought you knew and what you actually retained is your real learning agenda. Chapter 4. Permission to be terrible. When you are a child, your stumbling while trying to tackle something seems fine. But adults cannot make mistakes. We should know at first glance. If we do not know something, then who are we? That is the actual barrier. Not time, not resources, not intelligence. The social cost of being a visible beginner as an adult. Carl Dweck's research on fixed versus growth mindsets makes this concrete. Adults with a fixed mindset interpret struggle as evidence of inadequacy. Every mistake confirms their fear that they are not cut out for this, so they avoid the struggle entirely, which means they avoid the learning entirely. The reframe that changes everything is this. Being bad at something new is not a reflection of your ceiling. It is the price of entry. Every expert was once embarrassingly incompetent at the thing that they are known for now. The only difference between them and everyone who stayed stuck is that they gave themselves permission to be terrible for long enough that it became a skill. Josh Kaufman demonstrated this with 20 hours. 20 focused hours is enough to go from zero to genuinely competent at almost any skill. Not mastery, competence. The first 20 hours are the hardest because the ego screams the loudest at the beginning. Push through that window, and the learning accelerates on its own. Now, before I wrap this up, I want to leave you with one idea from everything we've covered today that I think matters the most. The expert trap, the ego problem, passive studying, fear of looking stupid. They are all the same thing wearing different clothes. They are all the ways the adult mind protects itself from the discomfort of not knowing. And that protection is costing you every skill, every reinvention, every next level you've been telling yourself that you'll get to eventually. We started with the idea that the smallest people in the room are often the worst learners. Here is what I did not say at the beginning. The fix is not becoming less smart. It is becoming more willing to be wrong, more willing to be confused, more willing to sit in the discomfort of not knowing for long enough that real learning can happen. The one thing to do today. Pick something that you want to learn and spend 20 minutes on it without taking a single note. Then close everything and write down what you actually retained. Just that. That one exercise will show you more about how you actually learn than any course ever will. If this resonated, subscribe. I put out a new video every week.